We're asking dumb SEO questions. Each week we answer the questions that are asked on the SEO Questions community on Google+. With us tonight we have Alistair Lattimore. Alistair is Head of Search for the What If group of companies. He's based on the Gold Coast here in Australia. Masataki Wasa is webmaster of wasaweb.net, W-A-S-A-W-E-B, and he's also a translator and a Google top contributor in the AdSense and the Google Plus help community on Google Plus. Rob Mars hails from the Netherlands. He is an AdWords aficionado and operator of MarketBiz with ZZ.nl in the Netherlands. He's also a Google top contributor on Webmasters, Search and AdWords in the Dutch language. And Tim Capper is a conversion rate optimization specialist, the Midlands leading SEO, and he's proud to call himself an SEO. As I'm sure, it doesn't matter anyway. Okay, our first question tonight is from Junwei Huang, who asks, does a 404 error have any serious impact on SEO? Junwei says, hi guys, any consequences of this that will affect page rank? Recently I used the Mozcrawl diagnostic and found that there are more than 60 404 error pages in my client's site. What do you guys think? Feel free to comment and share. Thanks. Regards, Junwei.
Yeah, it'll have an impact because, well, hang on. Rewind. 404 errors in themselves aren't a problem. They're part of the web, normal. Google obviously is completely okay with them. The reason that they'll cause problems for your site potentially is if you've got people linking to pages on your site that produce 404 errors. Those pages can't accumulate page rank. So any links that come into those pages that produce 404 errors, you get no benefit out of that. So you really want to get those links updated and moved over to the correct page in your site, or maybe put in a 301 redirect to redirect those broken links to their replacement URLs.
Thanks, Phil. Did anybody want to add to that one? Okay, so we'll move on because we've got quite a few to answer tonight. Gabriel Partini sends us a question titled "Moving from USA servers to Canadian servers." He says, "Hi guys, I intend to change my website host from a company with USA servers to another company with Canadian-based servers. I already have a .ca domain name, and my website is strictly limited to a French-Canadian niche. Will this change affect SEO rankings on search engine result pages and also for page rank? And will this change be a good step for SEO reasons? Thank you." Don't all speak at once.
Website hosting. So the benefits that are going to happen here basically are, theoretically, the customers of this website are in Canada, so having Canadian hosting, the site will probably load faster, so that's a good thing. Since he's already got a CA domain, his content is already going to be naturally geo-targeted to Canada, so there shouldn't be any difference there. If he was using a .com domain, for instance, and he was using US hosting, but targeting people in Canada, Google can potentially get confused that the .com is not necessarily targeting Canadians, and they've got to look for other signals on your website that suggest that the content of your website is actually for Canada, even though you're using a .com. You can obviously geo-target in webmaster tools, but if you don't do that, they'll look at things like the location of the server, the content on the website, the language on the content, local phone numbers, local addresses, people that are linking to that website and where they're linking from, or a whole raft of other signals. But since you're using a .ca domain, that's not relevant. It's automatically, it'll sort that out for you. It won't affect your page rank, for instance. That'll have no impact. Overall, I would say if this is going to make your site load faster, users like fast websites, so go for it.
Cool, Alistair. Great answer. I'll give you a 10 out of 10 for that, mate.
Oh, nice.
Okay, and our next is from Lucy Banter, who asks, what is the impact for including directory type listings on a website? Are they considered paid links, which are then frowned upon and penalized by googlebot?
I suppose it depends on the type of directory, I guess.
I think, yeah, it definitely depends on the type. But if the directory is like free SEO link web directory.com and build your link directory.com and stuff like that, I mean, just stay away from anything and everything like that. If it's something like Home Builders Association directory, you know, that is a niche specific directory, and something like that wouldn't be a problem. If it's, you know, a niche directory, but not these random things which just, you know, fill 200, 300, you know, take 500, 600, 7,000, 10,000 different types of categories. So obviously the name of it's going to be a problem. If they're just those randomized ones, they're also a problem. I think Google just ignores directories now. I don't think, unless you spam, it will be. Sorry.
I think that's Sergey Brin on the phone there, Tim.
I noticed that he's talking about adding value to their normal advertisers, to the print advertisers. So she wants us to set up a directory on their website to help their print advertisers. And that should be no follow, of course.
Yeah. All right. Look, I'll call that one closed for Lucy Banter, and I hope that's what you're looking for, Lucy. If not, please ask it again on the SEO Questions community on Google+. Mike Cook asks us a question with a title of a WordPress site using the Yoast SEO plugin. He goes on to say, okay, I got a new one from Moz this morning. I hate duplicate issues and I keep getting them. The nuts and bolts of this is that it is a website, a WordPress website, using the Yoast SEO plugin. And he gives, you can see these URLs on the SEO Questions community on Google+. I won't attempt to read them, but he finishes with, if someone knows the answer to this, I will be in your debt because I am stumped.
I don't really understand where the report is coming from. Does Yoast do this for you?
I honestly don't know, Alistair. I don't use Yoast. I know it's well respected, but I don't run many WordPress sites.
I think we probably need to find out what the domain is so that we can have a look at a couple of these pages and see what the content is. But looking at the two first URLs he's posted, one of them is domain / couple folders category criminal injury claims. The next link is blah 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 Scottish injury claims. The next one is then he's got some different types of injuries, back injuries, burns, whiplash, things like that. Maybe he's got title tags on them that are similar, or heading H1 tags on those pages that are similar, and the Yoast plugin or whatever it is that's producing this report card is getting tripped up on it. Without knowing exactly how that report's being generated, I would say manually review the pages that it's putting forward and see whether or not you feel that they're duplicates or not. If they are legitimate duplicates, then look into correcting it. If they're not, maybe it's just the software, getting tripped up on your website.
Yep. It's not like WordPress to create a subdirectory PHC blog, is it?
No, he's installed the blog, so he's put WordPress inside the folder called phc-blog, as opposed to having WordPress in the root.
Ah, got it. Yep. Okay.
Or more than that.
Yeah. No, I think you're absolutely right. All right, Mike Cook. I hope that is a sufficient answer for you. But of course, please feel free to ask for clarification. And we'll cover it first thing next week. Lindsay Siegel asks a question: is there a way to remove only portions of a page from Google's index? We use no index tags regularly for removing full pages. But what if I just want, for example, want to remove the comments portion of a page and want that no indexed? Thanks in advance.
Nope. Sadly, no easy way to do this. So when you no index a page, it no indexes the whole page, all content that's on it. You can load the content that you don't want indexed using an iframe, or people used to do that in the past, except that these days Google will crawl the iframe and associate the content in the iframe to the page that embeds the iframe if they feel that it's highly relevant to the page that's embedding it. So then, in essence, the content that's in the iframe gets indexed anyway. Probably the next best option might be you could use an iframe and then block the iframe URL so Google can't crawl it with robots.txt. Or you could load that content into the page using Ajax if you really, really don't want it indexed.
Thank you, Alistair.
I would just add that I would think exactly why you want to no index or to not have that content indexed. If it's good for users, and you want the users to see it, but you don't want Google to see it, it might be something that you might want to think about. Don't get me wrong. There's legitimate reasons why you might want to do it, but don't just leap into that and think that that's the solution. You might find that it's a better policy to allow Google to crawl and index that content regardless, because users are going to want to see it, and that content likely is probably going to add value to the page, in a sense that if you want users to see it, why wouldn't you want Google to see it and then have that content available to get indexed against that URL, unless it's all duplicate content. So
yeah, I wonder, I mean, she refers to the comments section of the page. I wonder if she has a trouble with spam, perhaps spam comments maybe, and she doesn't want those to be picked up by googlebot, maybe. I mean, if spam is the issue, I think using Google Plus comments eliminates most of that. Good morning, Mr. Minzer. Did the baby wake you up today?
No, I for some reason woke up today real early, 5 o'clock, so decided to join. Hey everyone, you guys cool kids?
It's really great to see you, Max. Really great.
Same.
All right. Diego Santos Cicado wants to know if links in a testimonial page are treated as reciprocal links. He goes on to say, hi folks, I am concerned about whether Google might consider links in a testimonial page as reciprocal links, since they are pointing to sites that previously wrote about us. Might this be an issue? Will no follow links solve it? Thank you.
I would just ignore it, to be honest. Yeah, I wouldn't worry about it. Like, it's an editorial link. It's not there to manipulate Google. It's an endorsement in a sense that, you know, you're happy to link to them. I see no reason why the page rank shouldn't flow across the link. In general, and this could be the wrong way to think about this, but in general for me, I tend to want page rank to flow across all links, unless it's advertising, essentially. You know, like harking back to Google's original notion of what nofollow was for. Don't wiggle your finger at me, Rob. But, you know, it was all, originally nofollow was all about, well, spam initially, and then subsequently advertising. So I tend to think that if it's a legitimate link that you're happy to have effectively endorse that site, regardless of whether there's a reciprocal link on the other side of it, I'd say just let it float PageRank.
Yes, I like that. Anybody else on this one? All right, I think that covers it for Diego. Stephen Sicantelli from Abraxas Taxi in St. Augustine, Florida, has produced a cool little YouTube video. He says it's so far receiving an icy reception. I'd earlier told him on another thread that a YouTube video was like having a billboard in Antarctica. So his question begins, I built my billboard in Antarctica with my YouTube video, and so far I am receiving an icy reception. I'm relatively new to G+ and SEO, and I perhaps littered the landscape with more than one site. He's since fixed that, by the way. How long should I wait to send my contractors to tidy up this billboard without inciting the natives to start throwing snowballs at me? As usual, thanks to everyone who helps with dumb SEO questions, and let me apologize in advance for having so many or so many. SEO is a strange beast to understand, let alone tame. The more I read, the less I understand, but what a great community this is, and hopefully you won't ban this post or me. And Edwin Yonk, thanks for all that you contribute. One day I may gather a good grip on the icy slope that is SEO. Now, well, straight away, you know, you've got to chalk him up as a bloke with great perceptive abilities. Okay. I mean, it is tough. I mean, making a YouTube clip. I mean, when you make it, it's your baby, and it's the best thing since sliced bread. And you put it up there, and no one comes to look at it. My son Elliot, when he was in uni, they were building ads for Griffith University, and also constructed a series. And as a of course, I'm biased, but I mean, as a literary, a dramatic work, I thought it was absolutely brilliant. But apart from you know, the surrounding community, it didn't. These clips, which cost a lot of money to produce, didn't get the following that I thought that they deserved. But I think it's because every minute they upload 6,000 minutes of YouTube clips. So you know, one person could never keep up with what is going up there. So you know, I think it's just like having a billboard on the Nullarbor Plain. I didn't know if Stephen Sicantelli knew where the Nullarbor was, so I said it was like having a billboard in Antarctica.
Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong. So Steve has gone and produced a YouTube video about his
It's
website.
a good one too. Yep, it's a good one too.
Great. And his question is what? So he's posted the YouTube video and he's not really getting any views on it, so that's the first problem. What's the second part of this problem? Because he mentioned something about going to clean up, you know, stuff before he incites the natives. Do you know what he's referring to with that?
Well, you see, when he first got started, he actually, I think, had 3 websites, certainly had 2, and everything but the .com, even though he owned the .com domain. So now he has merged them all to one with great help from a great guy, and I should know his name. I'll remember it later and mention him then. But he was from Ireland, an SEO from Ireland, and he stepped up and helped Stephen go through all that as a Christmas present. I think it was just before Christmas 13. Yeah, so that part, his website is getting traffic. Now he's built a YouTube clip, which is a positive thing to do, but it's getting no views. And I think he's asking us, how does he get traffic to his YouTube clips? But I mean, we have struggled, and after 88 episodes of Dumb SEO Questions, and some 8-hour stints amongst that, and you know, fronting up every week and trying very, very hard, we've managed to pull together 20,500 views. So you know, bugger you, Stephen. A 3-minute clip with a few views. You're doing better than us, mate.
So the first thing I would say then, if the problem effectively is about low views, is that he needs to go and check all of the standard YouTube video SEO. So for instance, the video title on his thing is a Braxi Taxi with a hyphen. His website, if I go and Google a Braxi Taxi, he doesn't hyphenate it. The title of his website is a Braxi Taxi St. Augustine's cab service. He mentions St. Augustine in the description for the video, but it's a 1-sentence, it's not even a 1-sentence description. it's, it's got 10 words in it. He wants to update the title to be more descriptive. Don't hyphenate it if he doesn't expect people to search for it hyphenated. He should include, maybe he should change his title to St. Augustine cabs or taxi services, Abraxi taxi or something like that, so that it's really, really hyper relevant to, his keywords that he wants to pursue. Same thing goes with the description. He hasn't got a lot of description happening. He wants to make sure that he's got the right category set. So at the moment he's got it set as travel and events. Make sure that there isn't a better category. There may not be, and if that's the case, then that's fine. Make sure he has a look around to see what other videos are tagged with from a tag standpoint. So for instance, he could go and do a whole bunch of Google searches, or sorry, YouTube searches for videos in his service industry in different cities and whatever else, and have a look at the traits of all of the videos that are ranking. He might find that they've got certain category sets, certain tag sets, certain title structures, all of those kinds of things. So he should go and look to, do some research on what works in YouTube at the moment from a ranking standpoint. And then the other thing in general is he wants to find places that are, if practical, that he can embed his video onto other relevant websites. I think last I checked, that still mattered, though I haven't done any YouTube stuff for a long time.
Brilliant. Anybody else with this one?
Can I just make a point of making sure that you don't get sidetracked just because you don't see results in the first, whatever it is, few tries. Just be consistent with your content. Be consistent with building your audience. They usually have this picture of someone digging for gold, and then they stop literally a few meters from it, and then the gold is right there. For some reason, I remembered AJ Khan's post about GIS blogging, where he talks about success is never something that you do overnight. So I was just reminded of that. Whatever you do on YouTube, build your audience, continue producing that content, and look past what happens with the first time you create something. Just be consistent, build your audience. It'll eventually, the success will catch up to you.
I think that's a really good point, actually, because I remember Rand Fishkin has talked about this many times with his wife's website, Everywhereist, where he said that she blogged and blogged and blogged for the longest time and had no traffic, and she just loves to write regardless, basically. But for the longest time, she had no success. And then suddenly, it all just came flooding up, and the waves sort of, started catching up to her. And then now, these days, her website, is very successful, and she gets a lot of traffic to it and whatnot. So I think it's a really great point. The other thing that Steve might want to consider as well is, sorry, a small tangent too. Don't forget that you can do, YouTube advertising with your videos as well. So it would be useful, for instance, to go and produce a couple different cuts of his video, load them onto his YouTube channel, and then start investigating doing geo-targeted YouTube ads to people that are in St. Augustine, to put it in front of the right audience of people, 18 to whatever age group that he typically works for, males, females, whatever it might be. He could target people in using the double-click ad groups, categories, affinities, and things like that as well. You can serve the YouTube ads outside YouTube now into double-click as display ads, video display ads. So in terms of general promotional aspects, I would look at the advertising opportunities that sit within YouTube that aren't just about the organic, natural exposure that he might get, because there's a lot of opportunity with YouTube in terms of other things that you can do with it to help his business.
That's an absolutely brilliant suggestion, Alistair. It's just dawned on me. We're actually using those post ads, like engagement ads, for YouTube advertising to promote that clip that Tim Capper made a few weeks ago. I think it costs us about 6 cents a click, and I see it as promoting SEO Questions as well as Tim. But we've had, I think, we've paid for about 4,400 clicks, which is translated into 1,600 views on YouTube. And I think a view is, if you hold a person for, I think it's about 3 minutes, is it? I'm not sure how long it is, but obviously about 2,000 people have logged on, seen Tim, and decided that they just can't hold it, hold on for more than 2 minutes. Anyway, but I think they're great. I think they're absolutely great. Anyway, I see Edwin Yonk has joined us to advise us that the South African soccer team has won
hockey
with a score of 2-6. Is that it?
Yeah, they finally won. Yeah, in hockey.
How can you win with 2-6? You got to be 6-2, surely.
Well,
you're muted, Edwin. Yeah. By the way, I saw a great tweet today, absolutely fantastic. It was about the English soccer team visiting an orphanage in Brazil. And the quote came back that it was so sad to see their mournful little faces, knowing that they haven't got a hope of success, said Jose, age 6. Yeah, anyway. All right, Stephen Secontelli, I hope that's the answer you were looking for. Next we have another question from Mike Cook, who wants to know if he should be filling out meta descriptions. He said, hi, a quick question regarding WordPress. I have run a report through Moz, and on the pages with missing meta description tag, it has brought back a few pages, but all are categories pages and /page/5/ etc. pages. I normally don't bother filling the meta tag, the metadata out for the categories. My question is, should I be filling these out, and how best to describe an actual category? Does anyone have a good example of this? And as for page/5, I'm not sure how to address this at all.
Okay. In general, I wouldn't bother. I would just let Google auto-generate the descriptions for those pages, mostly because, well, two things. Either you set the description and it's not tailored to the content on the page, because the posts that are on page 5, as you post more content, the content obviously is going to shuffle new content in, old content off. That page 5, page 6, etc. as you publish more and more blog posts. So either you set a manual description that's effectively not linked to the content that's on page 5, and that's fine if it's great and it never goes stale, or you set one that's related to page 5 and then it goes stale, so that's not really ideal either. Or you could let Google auto-generate the snippet for you based on the user's search phrase, which is always going to be relevant regardless of what content's on page 5. The reason in general why I wouldn't bother with this is I don't recall the last time I saw page 5 style URL come up in Google SERPs for a query. It's like, when was the last time you saw a tag page in WordPress come up in the SERPs for any kind of query? I just can't remember it happening recently. Google, in general, doesn't want to send back archive pages because they're not that useful. The query that you've entered is more than likely going to match an actual post on the same site, so they're more likely to return the post instead of the archive page 5. The same thing goes with category, year, month, day archives. which have all got page 1 through N on them. And similarly for the category archives as well, also have page 1 through N of category whatever. In general, you just don't see them come back in Google, so I wouldn't worry about it. If you wanted to be really, really sure, go into analytics, go into the content section, landing pages, use the filter box and set it for /page, and then change your advanced segment to be organic, and have a look how many referrals your website gets from Google into those paginated URLs. I'm going to say that it's going to be very, very few, which probably suggests it's not worth your effort.
Fair enough. Anybody else on this one? Okay, yeah, I hope that's the answer you were looking for, Mike Cook. Umesh, I should say, Sony, asks how to increase Google organic traffic. I did actually respond to Umesh on the SEO Questions community on Google+, and suggest that he'll have more success if he frames a more specific question, but he hasn't responded. Does anyone want to give an elevator statement for Umesh?
Do a lot of great. 6.
Sorry, you both spoke at once.
Publish great content and tell people that you publish great content.
The other thing I would say is make sure that he reads all of the guidelines. So Google publish webmaster guidelines on a couple of different categories, technical, quality guidelines, etc. It'll be worth his time to go and read those. I recommend everyone read them just as a general rule of thumb. Google publish an SEO starter guide with a whole bunch of recommendations for people that are entering into the SEO world, and it's written in simple speak, so you know a business owner could understand the basic concepts and stuff that Google are talking about. Moz have an SEO starter guide. Search Engine Land publish an SEO starter guide. Distilled.net, which is an SEO agency in the UK, have got a product called Distilled U, which is a self-learning, self-paced learning tool about SEO and digital marketing. Have a lash at that. Basically, you need to absorb a whole bunch of information and then start trying stuff out for yourself so that you can understand what's within the guidelines and how hard to press Google, basically, because you can do things that will get you traffic today but will get you penalized tomorrow. And that's just a silly waste of time, pretty much, if this website is intended to be a long-lasting website.
Excellent, Alistair. Okay, Umesh, seriously, if you make your questions more specific, you'll receive a more specific answer, but I think it's a very, very good one you've just received from Alistair. Chris M. Cloutier, who's asked a number of questions of us, he said, "Hi guys, I just bought a new domain. I have put a couple of pages up and decided to do a site operator search in Google just to see. One page shows up, the main page, with a description that looks like this: Bind cash advance, debt consolidation, insurance, and free credit report. I checked the Wayback Machine and all it shows is a GoDaddy page. I checked Majestic via the free subscription, but it didn't show anything either. Just a couple of links from domain selling type sites. Do you think this is bad? Should I dig harder to figure out why I have such a spammy description? Thanks."
Well, the description is there because he was parked before he bought it, I assume. And I don't know how hard the downgrade from the algo is at the moment, but as soon as he starts publishing, he should see improvements. I don't know what's on the website at the moment.
Yeah. By the way, I should have mentioned before for Umesh, but on the SEO Questions community on Google Plus, in the About description on the top right-hand side, we do have the link to Google's SEO Starter Guide, the Moz SEO Starter Guide, and Tim Capper's Basics for Business SEO Guide. I've got Tim monitoring quality control on that page. Okay. Any more for Chris Claudia?
I would go and do a fetch as googlebot out of Webmaster Tools and see what comes back. To see whether or not maybe he's been hacked, for instance, and he doesn't know it, and they're cloaking the hacking, for instance, so he doesn't see it when he views his site, but Google sees it.
You know, I'm not. I don't. Well, the way I'm seeing it is this: we don't know the domain name, but imagine that the domain name was like free-credit-report or something like that, something which would trigger the GoDaddy parking page to add a description like that. Is that a possibility?
Add a description like that. I don't know. I mean, I've never parked domains with GoDaddy to see how they treat those kinds of things. I mean, I know they used to run ads and stuff, but do they do that kind of spammy stuff?
Yeah, they do try to put links on there that match the domain.
But actual links, not advertising.
It's all advertising. They're all advertising links.
No, sorry, let me rephrase that. Are the links placed onto the page using, say, an ad server, or are they placed onto the page as actual HTML links that Google's going to crawl? Because if they're placed on through an ad server, then this stuff shouldn't be showing up in the SERPs. If they're placing the content into the HTML directly, then Google's going to crawl it, and that's why it's showing up in the SERPs. If you get where we're going.
Yeah, because they have.
I mean, Google has got a good handle on these park pages. I mean, I think that's why that they offered domain inventory parking with Google directly for a little while. I tested it out with 2 domains and made 2 cents over 2 years, and but you know, with thank you, Tim. That's I should say thank you, Rob, for the finger. But yeah, I did actually make it from Google 2 cents over 2 years by parking a domain with them, and I'm sure that they were just doing it as a test to work out how to fiddle their algorithms. And it was, I remember the sites too, it was Australian Discount Wines and something else, and those domains haven't worked for anything since. I'm rambling, and I'm sober too, guys, I promise. Anyway, Mickey Wesler asks, is there a way to use a canonical tag to mitigate duplicate content? He goes on to say, on a large site I'm working on for SEO, and I'm wondering, on dynamic pages such as results pages, we are getting duplicate title and description tags according to Webmaster Tools. Is there a way to use a canonical tag to mitigate the duplicate tags, or is there any other advice you can offer? Thank you.
I thought that Google advised not to open up your result pages for indexing if he's talking about search result pages on his own site, causing duplicate. But he could direct them all to one major product page or product group page with a canonical.
What I have noticed, I don't know if does he specify when he added in the canonicals? Or has he added in the canonicals?
No, he hasn't added them in yet.
Oh, right. Yeah, well, canonicals will take care of it. It does take a long time, and I'm assuming he's looking in his webmaster tools in the HTML improvement section where it's showing duplicates. It does take a fairly long time for those to slowly drop out, but canonicals will take care of those in the duplicate section if that's what he's specifically referring to in webmaster tools. It does take a while, but they will slowly and eventually, as Google works its way through, it'll slowly start removing them from the webmaster tools HTML improvement section.
So Mickey doesn't really specify in here though whether so he says it's a dynamic site, so i.e. backed by a database, and pages such as result pages. He doesn't really say whether or not that's a site search, for instance, or whether that might be a category page that lists 200 products or 500 products or something like that. Because I would answer this differently depending on what pages he's talking about. If it's an internal site search thing, he shouldn't be allowing those pages into the Google index. So he might apply meta NOINDEX, for instance, to all of the internal site search URLs, as an example. Or he could block them with robots.txt, but that's not how I would probably prefer to do it. If, on the other hand, the pages he's talking about is category pages for 500 products, and people are going through pages 1 through 10, and each of those 10 pages have got the same title tags, which is what's triggering webmaster tools. You don't want to be using the rel canonical tag to push all 10 pages back to page 1. That's not what Google recommends you do on this particular instance. You should instead canonical to itself, and then implement rel prev next instead, or canonical to a view all page from all 10 pages to the view all page for the category if there's a moderate number of results that come back for that URL. So yeah, I would use the right tool for the right job depending on what result pages represent in this instance.
Excellent. By the way, I noticed that Girish Kapoor has joined us from Chandigarh in India. Girish is an SEO team leader let me just check, the company name is Soft System Solution in Chandigarh, India. I guess that's India, isn't it? Oh. I think so, yes. My geography is not all that good. All right, let's move on to the next, and I have Mickey Wessler that will suit you. Jamin Rak, who's a good friend of Dumb SEO Questions, asked a question titled Setting Up for a Second Business Location. He says, I'm looking at setting up a satellite clinic in another adjacent town. I would like some direction on how to go about capitalizing on my existing web presence with my primary clinic. How would I set up my satellite location on my Google business page? Would my current reviews carry over to a new Google page for my new location? And how would I go about adding this new location on my website so as to take advantage of my current page rank for my city? Any other recommendations of things I should or should not do when adding a new location?
Can I talk about this?
Yeah, sure. I just forgot to add at the end of that, he finished off, it was just below the fold, he said, as always, thank you so much. You guys rock.
So with
yes, go ahead, Yoast.
Special, separate location. You can talk about the existing one if you want, but separate location. You have the existing location and different listings for it. I don't know if you have, Google. Maybe it's Yelp. Maybe it's something else. Maybe it's a Facebook page, local page for that first location. It's probably on Google Maps that has a separate listing for that location. Now, when you create the second one, you need all of these for a separate location again. So don't think that those are completely different. So you need to create a separate listing on Google My Business now. It's called. You need a separate listing if you're thinking about a location page on Facebook. You need a separate Yelp page for that location. So for every location that you have, it's a separate entity, and you need a separate page for each location that you have. And that means you're going to have a separate listing. You're going to have reviews specifically for that location. You might want to create a separate landing page on your website for that specific location. Have its address, that's important, a separate phone number for that location. Make sure that you own that phone number, and it's not a tracking number that you might lose later. Make sure that you stick to that phone number. And when you create that landing page for a separate location, include that business information. Do a map embed and all the other details specifically for that location. So website, create a separate page for each location. Google listing, create a separate listing. All the other listings, business listings, they have to be separate for each location, and reviews are also gathered for different locations. And I hope that was helpful. So just keep them separate.
Brilliant, Max. Brilliant. By the way, how's Max Impact going? The problem is you're on one side of the pond and I'm on the other. I keep missing you. You're broadcasting while I'm asleep, and vice versa. Of course, this time the baby woke you up and you couldn't get back to sleep, so you're here.
No, he's still sleeping. Actually, he's 3 now, so that's a lot of joy there. It's going well. There was like I said, there was a Google update yesterday to Google Local, or whatever it used to be called. I think Google finally got out from their identity crisis in local, and they released what's now called Google My Business. So when you log into that, this is like an umbrella for all the local products that they have. Google Plus page, your insights, your YouTube page, like everything pretty much under the business umbrella. So we're going to talk, speaking of Max Impact, we're going to talk about it today. Just decided, an empty slot, and I decided to chat about it today too. But yeah, it's going well.
Excellent, mate.
Yeah, it looks interesting, but I've found a few. Well, I don't know, but in the UK, I've got a couple of bugs going on in the minute where it's switching between My Business, Google Plus page, and not actually open next page. But yeah, I'm sure they'll sort those bugs out. But it looks nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Would anybody else like to add to this question? Okay. I I suggested to Jarman, I mean, by the way, I like Max's answer, but if he were to go the route of establishing two separate websites and two separate Google pages, and
can I clarify, Jim? Not two separate websites. You don't want to do that, but a separate landing page, local landing page for each location on the same site.
Okay. All right.
And how would you handle the phone number?
Jarman Raak, I hope you're happy with that. Here's one from our very, very good moderator on the Dumb SEO Questions community, Dave Elliott, who contributes a lot for us. And he's under the mistaken impression that he needs more Google Analytics knowledge. He said, I need to be able to find things like find out visitor flow from specific countries, where they land and where they go after that, and other things. And I can't work it out by merely pressing buttons. Brackets. He says, suddenly thinking, why don't I just create a profile or segment for the individual countries? Bracket. He said, where is the best place to learn this stuff?
I responded to Dave on Plus and suggested that maybe he check out Avinash's website or Justin Catroni's blog, who are both obviously Google Analytics advocates from Google. They publish amazing content. Brandon Campbell also suggested the Analytics Academy, which is a learning tool from Google on analytics. Dave could also go through and do the Google Analytics certification exam as well, and there's learning material obviously that goes with that, which is a good thing to do. But in general, I find that one of the best ways to do this is to learn by doing. I know that sounds really silly, and Dave's saying that he can't just press the buttons but to make it happen, but once you've gone and done a little bit of reading and you understand obviously that you can create advanced segments and what the metrics and dimensions are that you can use within the segments to target those users, you'll quickly realize that the world's your oyster to a large degree within analytics, and you can really get some detailed information about that. There's also, when you go down to an individual page within Google Analytics, speaking about the flow question, where people go next, so to speak, there's a navigation flow link when you drill into an individual page. Up above the chart that's at the top of the page, there's a navigation flow, navigation explorer or something like that link that will show you where people came before the page that you're viewing and where they went after, and what the relative volumes and percentages were of those traffic profiles coming into and out of a given page, which is pretty useful. The other thing that's really helpful that you might find handy is if you go and set up Google Analytics events for various micro conversions within your website, downloading a PDF, making it to a contact page, submitting a form, whatever it might be that's relevant to your business or your website. Analytics has also got an event flow and a goal flow, which shows you the sequence of micro events that customers are taking as they progress through your site. That's not necessarily worrying about the page views that they're viewing necessarily, but more about the actions that they're performing as they progress through your website, which gives you a good feel for logically how people are moving through your site, the types of content they're consuming, the type of actions that they're taking, and how that might feed into your conversion funnel, for instance, on your website. So there's a raft of things. If you've got a more specific question about something, Dave, like always, fire it in and we're happy to help.
Yeah, and also one thing I found immensely valuable over the past 88 weeks are the green room sessions, which occur prior to and after the termination of the broadcast for these Hangouts. Actually, Social Media Fridays, which I was just talking to Girish about in the chat, have become a source of endless entertainment for me because Tim comes along and complains about everything. He makes me feel better, you know, like the Tim's got so many problems now. Ah, dear. Anyway, Dave, I hope that covers it for you, mate. Ramya Venkat has heard about both responsive and parallax scrolling, but he would like to know which is good for websites in terms of rankings. Any suggestions or ideas?
Could anybody explain what it is?
Parallax scrolling, isn't that unlimited products showing up using HTTP response?
No, that's infinite scrolling. So Remiar's got two things confused here that are entirely separate. So one is about doing responsive web design effectively, I assume is what he means by responsive. For those that don't know, responsive web design is serving the same HTML to mobile tablets and desktop users, and using CSS and JavaScript, it rescales the page automatically to fit the device size, basically. So it looks really good and functions well on a tablet or mobile, just as well as it does on a desktop device. The parallax scrolling thing is where you're using multiple layers of CSS images, and as you scroll down the page, the CSS background images do interesting and funky things as you're scrolling down the page. It's just a visual treatment to a page, essentially. The parallax thing isn't going to have any bearing on rankings. Responsive web design versus non-responsive dynamic serving or a mobile-specific website. Assuming, you know, Google's recommendation is responsive web design these days. It's simpler for most people to implement. So that being said, if you were to implement a mobile-specific site or an M folder or an entirely separate mobile website or dynamic serving, Google supports all of these scenarios in terms of their ranking algorithms and crawling systems. So there's no necessarily penalty one way or the other about how you implement a mobile content for your website. There's a supported mechanism from Google on all fronts.
Cool. Max, you're leaving us. Look, thank you very much for your contribution. It's much appreciated.
Thank you for having me, Jim.
No.
And thanks, everyone. Good seeing you all.
The pleasure is all ours, Max, and we hope you come back again soon.
Thanks. We'll try.
Okay, mate. All right. I must read up about parallax scrolling. I should have done that. Actually, there is a listing on Wikipedia, which I did source for the spelling, but like an idiot, I decided I didn't need to check it out. Anyway, Kumbare Mustanganise asks, using Google Analytics, how do you extract, or how do you then extract the rank results? He said, I can't figure out how to download them.
So this is a little bit funky, and it's probably well beyond the scope of dumb SEO questions, but So for a percentage of the traffic from Google, they include referrer data that tells you what position in the SERPs that particular keyword was clicked from. So you've done a search for query X, and the user clicks the fourth SERP position. Under certain scenarios, Google will tell you that they clicked the fourth link on the SERPs, and that data becomes available to you within Google Analytics if you wanted to. To get access to that data, there's two ways to do it. You could set up a filter in Google Analytics, so set up another profile, attach a filter to it, and then with some jiggery-pokery, you can essentially pass in the ranking position of the SERP against the keyword, which then lets you basically come up and say, this particular landing page on average ranks in this position for the queries that it ranks for. In a lot of instances, obviously, you can't see 3/4 of the keywords that the page ranks for specifically, but you do know that on average the page ranks in this position for these positions, for instance, which gives you a good feel for where a given web page might rank in the SERPs within Google Analytics. You could also, if you didn't want to use a second profile and filters in Git GA, you could also write some JavaScript to extract out the CD parameter on the referrer header and pass that into Google Analytics using a custom variable or an event, and then do it that way. I think AJ Cohn actually published something about this a long time ago about how he hacked this in to GA. I'll see if I can find the article and I'll attach it to the question on the Dumb SEO Questions website.
Thank you. And I'm not sure if we're going to accept this remark about your answer being beyond the scope of Dumb SEO Questions. So we answer everything here, don't we, Edwin? Yeah. Anyway, I don't think it is anything beyond our scope, is there, Rob?
No, I don't think so. But perhaps it's easier to get your rankings from Webmaster Tools, sir.
It is.
Okay, Valentina Huff asks, what is your favorite free site audit tool? I've got a feeling that Valentina Huff was out. Sorry about that.
We must now mention that free one that we have.
But SEMrush is not free. I mean, it's a brilliant tool, but it is not free. Although they do have the SEO Quake, but that doesn't conduct a site audit. I think Valentina was asking a Dorothy Dixer there because she later, or somebody else conveniently popped in and posted a link to some tool that I'd never ever heard of, so we just deleted it because that's what we do with spammers. But anyway, does anybody know of a free site audit tool?
So there's a free version of Screaming Frog, which will do a certain number of URLs, I think, maybe 500 or 1,000 URLs. If you want to do more than that, you need to buy the paid version, which is not expensive. It's about £100 or something like that for a license, or it's not a great deal of money, and it's a great tool. Another one that you could use is the IIS SEO toolkit from Microsoft. It can perform website audits for you and things like that, which is very cool. And then, is it Beam Me Up? Are they the mob that do the other free crawler.
Web me up, Scotty.
Web me up. They've got a crawler as well, right? That does audits.
And there's
at the moment,
also
WebMeUp is completely screwed up. I don't get any results from them since April 24.
and there's also being webmaster tools. They have an SEO analyzer.
They must have had a meltdown because I mean, when that tool was first released or first became visible, it was brilliant, isn't it?
Which one? Which tool?
The Web Me Up backlink tool.
Yeah.
Good software, very responsive, fast to act. Anyway, Valentina, that's your whack tonight. Dustin Kusmal asks, how do you get this menu for your website in Google search? You can see a screenshot of what Dustin's referring to in the SEO Questions community on Google+. He wants to know what the menu is called, and is the whole thing a snippet? I think it was Edwin Yonk who pointed out that it was actually composed of two parts, site links and also a Google Local link. Was that you, Edwin? It was, but he's got no microphone. Okay. Well, look, let's call this one answered because we've got quite a few questions and we're running behind a little. Here is one from our good friend Niraj Kumar. He wants to know if this negatively affect the blog as well as the website due to duplicate title and content. He says, in my company, seniors write good analytical articles, large articles on legal updates, news or economic activities, and save them as a web page. Then the summary of the article is sent to many subscribers as mailers with a link to the main article. And now they have asked me to post the main article or the mailer part on the blog because it saves their time for content development. I think that this will negatively affect the blog as well as the website due to duplicate title and contents. Am I right? If yes, please tell me just how I should convince my seniors that what they want is not good or right.
So, in general, this is not going to really cause an issue for you. That's a fairly broad statement, but duplication of content on a small scale like this is not really a problem. However, you are going to end up in a scenario where theoretically you're going to have two URLs competing for the same keywords or a subset of keywords, which isn't ideal. If it's a convenience thing for your senior management to do this, why not just NOINDEX the summary version of the blog post? You don't need to obviously have both versions indexed in Google, but they might obviously want to have it available for a convenience scenario for them for some reason. So publish it, set the summary as NOINDEX. Happy days. No harm, no foul.
Cool. Okay. I think Niraj, I'm sure you wanted us to give a different answer, but I'm sure Alistair has given you the right answer. Tech Blog Corner has an issue with timeout while fetching the main resource. He says, "Hi all. When I am checking the page speed of my website, I get a unique message from Google PageSpeed Insight tool. And the message is timeout while fetching the main resource. Ensure that the page loads in a browser and try again." Any advice on this and why it is showing in this way? I should add that Tim Capper, Edwin Yonk, and myself all loaded this. Edwin and Tim were able to get the page, the Insights tool to work, but when I tried it, it didn't work and provided the same result as the screenshot that can be seen on the SEO Questions community on Google+.
I would. So I just got the error as well. Timeout while fetching the main resource. But when I load it in Chrome, the page loaded okay, though it was slow.
I wonder if there's a file there, like one of his ad partners or something, that's holding it up.
It's possible. I'm just loading it now. Hang on.
For me, it loads.
So it's very slow. When I use the Chrome profiler on the homepage, it took 2.5 seconds for the HTML of the homepage to come down to Chrome. 2.25 seconds of that total time. Sorry, it took 2.8 seconds in total. 2.25 seconds of that total 2.8 was spent receiving, i.e. downloading, the HTML for that page, which means the server that's serving his website is very slow. You should expect to see the HTML get served to the client or downloaded in 50 milliseconds. For instance, if I was to compare that to a domestic website in Australia, just for comparison's sake,
say shopsafe.com.au.
So I just checked my employer's website as an example. The HTML for the homepage downloaded in 4.5 milliseconds, not 2.25 seconds, 4 milliseconds.
Wow.
So instant, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would say the web service is slow.
Yeah, and it is not only
Yeah.
today.
Agree. So Tech Blog Corner,
yesterday,
it looks like you do have an issue with your hosting. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Alistair?
I think that's fair. Yeah.
So one thing to check, if you wanted to get a second opinion on this, I suppose, is you could go and check it using webpagetest.org and see how they go. So I'm just running it now. I expect that they're going to come back and say that your website's very slow. But that's what I would look at.
And the
We'll wait on
website
this one
was
for
hosted,
a test to finish. Okay, so you've got something more that you want to add, Alistair?
Taking a long time. It's been testing for 1 minute already for that one web page. In any case, without even having to wait for web page test to come back, it was very slow to load for me personally. And the Chrome or Google page speed tool timed out, which basically says it's slow. I'm pretty confident that web page test is going to come back with the same response. So you might want to look into faster hosting or upgrading your hosting plan to a better plan or whatever.
Okay. Well, look, I'll call that as an answer. If there's nothing else to add. Okay. So Kumbare Masanganais has another question for us tonight, titled "Centralizing all reporting to come from Google Analytics." He said, "Why is it that after you have successfully linked analytics to track rankings, you have to fetch the results from Webmaster Tools when you can pull all the other data from analytics, e.g. AdWords? Has anyone else found this to be quite strange? I am trying to centralize all reporting to come from analytics, so this is a bit of a snag."
It is what it is. You know, the AdWords integration, as an example, over time hasn't facilitated all data from AdWords into Google Analytics. And over time, Google have progressively extended the amount of data that's available within Google Analytics from AdWords. It's the same deal with Webmaster Tools data. Not all data is available. They've increased the amount of data that they've provided in the past, I'm pretty sure. In the future, they might provide more. If you need more data that's not available through GA, through the API or the integration in GA, then what options do you have? Depending on the data that you need, Google Webmaster Tools has got an API from Google. It's part of GData. You might be able to get the data that you need through the API, which might mean that you could export the data into a Google Doc or a Google spreadsheet using the app scripts. And then Google Analytics is also available with an API, and it can also be used through Google Spreadsheets and app scripts. So you could maybe merge the sets of data in Excel, potentially. Another option might be using a third-party analytics tool. There's a tool called Analytics Canvas, which is a Windows product that uses the Google Analytics API, and it lets you build custom reports, scheduling. You can do a whole raft of wonderful things with it that you can't do through the web interface in Google Analytics. One of the things that it allows you to do, among many, is merge different data sets together. So you can take data from inside your own business, so proprietary data from your own internal systems, and merge that data with the Analytics Canvas and the Google Analytics API, and smash those two sets together to do creative things. So if you could get the data out of Google Webmaster Tools, maybe as a manual export once a month, and put it into a CSV file or whatever, and upload it into Analytics Canvas, you could theoretically do all of your reporting from Canvas and merge the two sets of data together as an option. It's not it's obviously not as simple as Google just providing you all of the detail you want in analytics, but you know, it is what it is.
Okay. All right. Kumbare, I hope that's the answer you're looking for. CES Inspections LLC from the USA wants to know if googlebot views follow links as spammy links. He says, and right away, you've got to love the guy. He says, much revered oracles of search, I beseech thee. My company has around 20 or more links from a fairly strong domain. The links only differ in that I am included in a different zip code for each directory for user search like this. And he gives a series of links which can be seen on the SEO Questions on community on Google+. He goes on to say they are all follow links. He says, I guess my question is, would Google view these as spammy links? They do help me get business to my site, but if they are affecting my organic rankings, I'd rather limit the volume. What say you?
They are spam. The site they had or have I think they've found 700 links to other DLDs, and they respond 302 to another site, and my guess is that they are.
Is anybody
so.
thinking on an answer for this, or should I try to?
Well, Dave Elliott gave a large advice, and Mr. Young, I think.
Oh yeah, they are spam. Go ahead, Alistair.
So on the example links that he's provided, which is find and inspector.us domain, are those pages linking to his website?
I assume.
I don't know, Alistair. By the way, Edwin, sorry for interrupting you before. Apparently I have got some lag happening from here. I didn't hear you. I just spoke over the top by accident.
No problem. You just did it again.
If it had been Tim, it would have been intentional.
So on that particular page, find it inspector.us, I can see a link to what I assume is his website, which is cesinspectorstexas.com. There's only one link. And it is a followed link as well, so Google's definitely going to see that link and do whatever they're going to do with it. I think, broadly speaking, it's probably not a great link, but in the grand scheme of things, unless you've got huge volumes of these crap websites linking to you, I wouldn't think that you're going to get analysed because of it. If this is your marketing tactic though, and you've got dozens and dozens of websites like this that are all linking back to you, that's going to be pretty suspect, particularly if they're all followed links. If they're no followed links, it's not going to really hurt you either. Google doesn't follow the no followed links, so.
Well, they are correct through Nunji.
All right, CS inspections. I hope you're happy with that. Here we have a question from Muiz bin Mohammed. Can I link a Google Plus page with a page on a website? I'm not sure I understand what he means. I'm sure you guys will know. Muiz says, hi guys, I hope everyone's good. I wanted to know if we can link a Google Plus page with a page on a website. Like I want to link a page with xyz.com/xyz. Is that possible? Thanking you all in advance.
I think the short answer is no, I don't think it's possible.
Okay, if anyone would know, it would be you, Matsutake. So, Muiz, it seems that that's not possible. I'm sorry, we haven't got a bigger answer to offer. Vipin Sharma asks a question titled "Mistakenly Added No Index Code." He says, it was cool that I really didn't need to wait for moderation. He's referring to making his post on the SEO Questions community on Google+. We self-moderate, but if you put a link in your post, Masataki's got a big axe and he's not afraid to use it. Anyway, Vipin says, yes, here I have an important question. I have a client who was ranking on position number 5, and a developer mistakenly added no index code on the page. Google de-indexed, and finally the ranking was lost. It took some 3 to 4 days to get indexed again. I tried fetching in Google Webmaster Tools and bookmarked from some good sites, but unfortunately I'm unable to get my rankings back. This happened to me some months back, same situation, but the URL was indexed quickly, and I got my rankings back. Please, if there is anyone who could comment, and he provided a link to his site, which is www.sunshineindustries.co.in, and his keyword that he was winning for, but not now, is chapati making machine. I love chapatis. Do you know what they are, Alistair?
No, I don't think so.
It's like a dough that you make with unleavened flour, and you make it into like a dough, and you roll it out really thinly. And cook them on a grill, so it makes it like a bread, like a crusty bread with about a 1 millimeter, 2 millimeter center to it.
Right.
Great for Indian food. Really nice.
Huh.
Well, I don't think it's...
we had Tanky Spieler join us for a second there, did we?
So just before we go on, did someone answer Vipin's question about mistakenly NOINDEX stuff?
No, that's what we're waiting to do.
Right, sorry. So assuming that the only thing that happened was the NOINDEX, once you re-index the site, in time your ranking should come back.
Normally, the ranking reappears with the re-indexing, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's right. What does his website say? Let's see.
Well, I don't think it is the NOINDEX. So I looked at other things like content. I couldn't find many links. I think SEMrush only gave me one link. But there wasn't a smoking gun either. Why he would drop from position 5 to position 100.
One thing I would say is his website just looks horrible. Looks completely unorganized.
Yes.
I don't mean that in a nasty way, obviously, but his website looks horrible. The navigation on the homepage with the featured product thing is weird. You've got a YouTube video just floating in the middle of the page, an inquiry form just stuffed into the page. The footer of the site just looks like a schmozzle. I've got find us on Facebook stuff overlapping content, images from Facebook controls. It's just a schmozzle. If I came to this website, I wouldn't use it. I would just click back. Even if it did rank, I wouldn't care. I'd just abandon the website and go back to Google and find the next site.
Well, it's quite specialized, so those machines, aren't they?
Well, there's some good advice, Avip and Sharma. You go on.
You're cutting him off nearly every time he talks.
Really? Look,
Yeah.
I'm so sorry, Edwin. I'm not hearing you at all. I look at you talking, and I can see your lips moving, but I think you must have forgotten to turn the mute off.
No.
It doesn't matter. It's gibberish
Look.
anyway.
Can you hear him?
Yeah.
Yep.
He's breaking up a bit, but I can hear him.
Okay. What you should do, wave your hand, Edwin, when you're about to speak, and I'll stop. I see Hakim Abu Shanab has joined us. How are you, mate? Earlier on tonight, I put a link when Girish asked how he could join us. I put a link on the post for tonight's hangout, and no doubt Hakim has found that link.
Cool.
And doesn't seem to have a microphone. Perhaps, maybe that's it. Anyway, well, Vipin Sharma, I hope that's the answer you were looking for. Here's one for Girish, who was with us before, Girish Kapoor. How can I promote my website in different selected countries? Like if my website was .com TLD, and I want to promote my website only in France, China, Italy, and the UK, but other countries I don't want to promote. How is it possible?
It's not. If you allow Google to index your site, which you obviously have to appear in search, you can't say to Google, show my content in one country but don't show it in another. If they feel your content's relevant to an audience somewhere in the world in a given language that they're searching in, they're going to return your site regardless. You can't stop it.
Yep, fair enough. Hi, Harkham.
Hi. What's up, guys?
You might have to click the unmute button.
So
Question 25 on our run list is from Pablo, who asks a question about 301 redirects. He says, hi everyone, I'm in the process of doing a 301 redirect. I've already done the redirects from the old to the new homepage and from section to section. And as well, I'll make the redirect of 15 pages which have the most search traffic from page A to B with the same content. What is your recommendation for the rest of the URLs, those with little traffic? Should I leave them to die or redirect them to the home page? I'm sorry if my English is not quite good. Mate, it's perfect. And he's curious to hear your thoughts, guys.
If it's not a huge imposition for Pablo, I would redirect all of them to their new corresponding page. You know, if it's less than 100 URLs, I'd just put the redirects in and be done with it. If it's 1,000 or 10,000 URLs and you've got all of these URLs that are weak and get you very little traffic, you know, maybe you don't have to do them, but I would still recommend that you put them in if you can swing it. Sorry, I should just probably clarify there. The reason that you want to do that, by the way, is that the pages that aren't ranking in Google or that aren't getting you a lot of traffic, it doesn't necessarily mean that they don't have links to them. So those links that are coming into those pages, while those individual pages might not have enough equity to compete for the phrases that you want them for, the links that are coming into those pages could be helping to support your overall website and helping the other pages in your site rank that do have more links. If you don't put in the redirects for all of the other URLs, all of the links that go to those pages when they're 404 are going to get lost, basically, which you don't want to have happen.
Yeah, and as an add-on, is saying or redirect to the homepage. Google will view that.
Excellent. Okay, I hope that answers that for you, Pablo. Well, we've done it again. We've covered all of our questions for this week, and now we move on to our weekly news roundup from the SEO news community on Google+. Each week, when we find items of interest around the web, we will post them there and discuss them here. The first one was posted by Edwin Yonk, and it was regarding a comment, or at least a comment stoush, if you like, between Bill Slawski and the inimitable Barry Schwartz. And it's titled, Should SEO Bloggers and Writers Go Away? Bill Slawski said, I guess I inspired this post at Search Engine Roundtable. I did leave a comment with my thoughts. What do you think? Too much echo chamber, too many link building posts or panda posts? Is there anything you want to see people who write about it, SEO write more of? And then Barry's article basically was asking for feedback as well. What are your thoughts, guys?
I've got a chat.
You're
So
off. Yes, no worries, mate.
see you all. See you next week.
No problem. See you next week, Alistair. Thank you for your contribution.
All right. Cheers.
Okay, bye. Maybe the bandwidth will improve now, Edwin, now that Alistair's going.
I hope so.
Ah, dear. All right. He seems to be frozen on the screen. Anyway. Well, anybody with a comment on the article between Bill Slawski and Barry?
Well, Barry does an excellent job, so.
No? Okay. All right. Let's move on from there and discuss the only other article that we're covering this week. It must have been a slow news week. And it's Google launching Payday Loan Algorithm 3 targeting spammy queries. A quick snippet from it. Google's head of search quality, Matt Cutts, announced at SMX Advanced tonight that the third version of the Payday Loan algorithm is launching this week, as soon as tomorrow. This algorithm specifically targets very spammy queries and is unrelated to the Panda or Penguin algorithms. Didn't Google just update the Payday Loan algorithm a couple of weeks ago? I think that's absolutely true. Tim Capper has a theory that the Payday Loan algorithm is powered by an intern who lets the payday loaners have the free run of Google on the weekends and public holidays. I'm not getting any sound feedback, guys. Can anybody hear me? Tim's answering a phone call, Masataki.
Well, Tim would be the person who knows.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, look, our sound quality is shot to hell at the moment, and there's a bit of a lag. So I think that we should terminate the broadcast and go to green room at this time. I noticed that we still have viewers. And so on the SEO Questions community on Google+, I'll publish a link so that you can all join us for the green room afterwards, and hopefully once we're not publicly broadcasting, we'll be able to communicate without lag. Anyway, look, for those of you that are still watching us, thank you very much. It's their support that you give us that makes what we do worthwhile. We'll be back at the same time next week to do it again. Thanks very much.